I'm walking away from this as a Patriots fan feeling sunny and positive. I don't know if that surprises you that that's my takeaway here, Taylor, as you know, you generally being the sunny and positive guy, but that's kind of my vibe. So again, Maye makes the last second play, you know, holding the ball for 12 seconds to, you know, tie the game at the end of regulation, and then throws a game-sealing pick in overtime with the Patriots down 3 on 1st and 10. Clearly an ill-advised throw, both in terms of the throw itself and the situation that they were in. But he did it. They lost, and I will turn it over to you, Tayler Kyles, your kind of, you know, first takeaways on the whole Drake Maye experience today.
Yeah, I mean, Drake Maye is the story. When we were talking to the players, everyone was raving about the guy. Rhamondre ended his press conference like, yeah, no, I love that dude. Devon Godshaw called him Josh Allen 2.0, alluded to the fact that Drake's the kind of guy that who will probably attract players in the future, which obviously is the biggest goal for the end of the season, is to become a destination where Drake Maye plays well enough that players are like, you know what, if I go to this team, I can make them good enough that they'll actually be contenders, and I want to play with that guy. Hunter Henry raved about him. So that really is it. And obviously, you know, they're not even in the game if it's not for Drake Maye. Obviously, the turnovers are what ultimately cost them, but he had to quite literally put the team on his back, led them in rushing for what really realistically probably would have been the 4th game in a row if he hadn't left last week with a concussion. But 3 of his 4 games as a starter, he was the leading rusher. Gerard Mayo kind of alluded to the lack of a run game, and I know people want to nitpick the play calling for the Patriots, and honestly, before halftime, I get it, because while there have been some times where the execution wasn't really great at the end of a half, I understood them wanting to be aggressive. It was just kind of a philosophical disagreement. That end of the half was like, I don't even know what you're doing. It's 3rd and 1. You're letting the clock wind down, and you just try to run the ball from an under center heavy grouping, like things like that. But again, the lack of a run game made this a tough game to call because Drake Maye had to do pretty much everything. Now, the fact that he did show the ability to do those things was what was the most encouraging thing. And again, what I think Patriots fans should take away. But it is also discouraging that we keep talking about, all right, the team has to improve. You know, you want to show toughness, get better every week. And yeah, Drake playing well, you know, in those spurts was awesome. But it's upsetting that it feels like the run game and the run defense specifically just continue to be non-existent. So Drake Maye, great performance. Like, also, and I know Pat Lane brought this up on his post-game show, but I don't understand why they decided to go into the wind. Drake Maye alluded to the fact that contributed to the underthrow on the last play, where I don't think it might have been a touchdown. So that was kind of funky. Definitely some coaching things I didn't really agree with, but again, even though it's a loss, I know fans are going to be pissed, but at least Drake Maye gave you something to be excited about.
So that's my naked eye opinion on the throw. You ever like, you know, when you were, you know, you're still a kid, but you know what I mean? When you're like playing with your buddies and see who can throw it farther, and you try to get underneath one and you just short arm it, or you mess up, you don't get enough trajectory on it, it comes 20 yards short of where your normal best throw would go. You just kind of missed the throw. I actually thought he just didn't get, like, I think if he puts it 15 yards ahead of him, the safety's not coming into play there, or 10 yards in front of Booty. So I think he thought, I got him. I just got to put it there, and I'm going to get over the safety. And if he outruns him in the last 5 yards, we're that's 6, and that's ball game. We're going home. And it just came up short. You mentioned the wind. That's kind of interesting. I feel like that throw was a solid 10 yards short of where Drake Maye thought it was going to end up when it came back down. So it looked like, oh, geez, he just threw a friggin', you know, he just punted it to a safety. But I feel like it might not have been a horrible decision as much as it was a horrible throw.
Yeah, like I went back and watched the play, and at first when I was watching it live, I saw the safety kind of last minute and figured that Drake didn't see him either. But looking at it, I was like, oh, he might actually throw a touchdown here, because I'm thinking like the 50-yard bomb in his first start where he does put the ball under and Kayshawn just has to run under it and make the grab. But obviously, yeah, again, he did acknowledge the win, so I think that had to factor in, because he's not the kind of guy who makes mistakes, and that leads me to believe, like, yeah, that was something that he was thinking about.
And that's the thing. And so when we are going to kind of thin slice and parse through all of Drake Maye's performance, I think that's an important distinction there. So I want to talk about that. But here is Maye, I believe, on the last play.
We got proud of the guys for fighting. I think that's the biggest thing. Disappointed in the loss. They made some bad decisions, especially that one at the end there. We got a chance to go down there and at least tie it up. We're on our own 40, and I think it was first down. So just got to be better. I think some decisions that I made throughout the game that would have impacted the outcome, and take that upon myself. Those guys battled up front, especially those guys up front. The receivers were battling. I think I was just glad we found a way there at the end of the fourth and just came up short. So we got to go back and learn from it, and especially me. I got to take these and take advantage of these reps that I'm getting, and in the game, and I got to play better.
Take us through that touchdown, the final touchdown there.
Yeah, they're just on the 5. They drop out the guys on the 5, and you got a chance to get tied up. So they're doing whatever I can. I think they zoned it off, and they're doubling the inside guys, and we had a bunch concept, and had back line, and I think Hunter ended up getting run out of bounds, and just trying to keep the play alive, make a play. Rhamondre, good for a running back out there to kind of play like a receiver and make a good play, but end up coming up short. So that play really doesn't matter at this point.
I thought him acknowledging Hunter Henry getting run out of bounds was really impressive, that he had the awareness, because literally if he throws to Hunter Henry, it's a penalty and the game is pretty much over. So that was just real quick. That was something I thought was really impressive. He was like, okay, one of my options isn't even here anymore. I need to go back and see it. But Hunter Henry, being the veteran he is, probably made it clear, like, don't throw to me. But, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so, like, I guess kind of, breaking through it, and we're going to play some sound from the Patriots as well, like on May, because they were gushing, and it's, that stuff matters, because, I mean, the reality is both Patriots wins are with Jacoby under center. And Jacoby's a guy who has a lot of respect in that locker room, and it wouldn't be crazy for the team to be like, we did him dirty. I know May's going to be the guy eventually. But they're not. They're pretty honest about it. They know Jacoby was a fighter, but I think they see what a lot of us see. Of course they see it. They're professional football players. They see him every day, but I think they believe, and so, and that's the thing. And again, you're much better suited to, discuss some of this stuff in a really granular way. But my general takeaways on the performance was, while we're going to sit here and say these two ill-advised decisions, rookie mistake, look, professional quarterbacks don't see the guy, don't see the robber, don't see the guy underneath sometimes, and that happens, and he just didn't see him. Just literally, sometimes you fail to see a human. Really good drivers sometimes don't see something in a blind spot, and shit, I didn't see it. I see it 99 out of 100. I just didn't see him that time. He knew it the second he threw it. He almost went, he got into a defensive position to chase the guy down. He's like, I just threw a pick. Knew it. That's a thing that happens in football. The last throw we talked about, I actually wonder whether the decision was as bad as it necessarily was, and whether it was either wind or he just short-armed a ball where he thought he could get 6 there. And sure, yeah, he got flushed out, and maybe you want to hold on to the ball, a little bit better in strip sack. But again, that's a pretty normal football play that I don't believe is experience-based. That's just something that happens to you sometimes, which is, yes, on this play, I have to do a better job protecting it. The thing that you're worried about with a rookie quarterback is, are all of his mistakes a result of him freaking out, right? Like, it's going too fast. Back foot throw. The Mac Jones late stage interceptions were, this is too freaking fast. I don't like it. Get me out of here. Back foot, throw a balloon. It can be picked off by 12 different people. Like, he's not doing that. In fact, he's actually doing a terrific job. When he does throw into traffic, it's almost always when the defender's got his back to the ball and he can throw a jump ball to one of his receivers where they know they'll get it, or he's throwing it into really tight windows where only his receiver can make a play, or he's choosing not to throw it at all because he's like, it's not there. So I would bet when you go back and look at the film, you're going to say, Smart, I bet you can track Smart not to throw it, not to throw it, not to throw it, not to throw it. And sure, there'll probably be a couple where, second earlier if he gets that. But this is all within the normal realm of football. I think we're a little nuts with, like, having watched Tom Brady for 20 years playing at near perfection and then seeing someone like CJ Stroud or whatever come out in year one and like look like a 10-year seasoned vet. A lot of this stuff is normal football stuff. It's not like the game is too fast rookie shit that people thought were the things that were going to plague Drake Maye's, career and development this early on. It's completely the opposite. I think Van Pelt had a quote before the game, which is like, he's miles ahead essentially of where we thought. His progression and his ability to get through everything. So you see it all the time. And how many times is he not only able to get through his progressions, then realize, I got to kind of get moving now if I'm going to be able to make something. And little subtle things, moving to his left, a dump off to Rhamondre on one play. I remember on a second down after having made that really nice play where he rolled out and he hit booty on the comeback there that was in a really tight window. He makes a lot of those. Like, you could argue, like, there's one side who could argue Drake Maye lost the game for you, and another side could argue that the Patriots wouldn't have gained a single yard of offense if Drake Maye wasn't their quarterback. And I think that's what we saw today. The numbers will say 3 turnovers, only 200 passing yards, but the reality is he did all of this himself. Like, everything there was done simply because Drake Maye has the abilities that he has.
That was how I felt going into the game. I was asked when I was on NBC, all right, do you lose all the goodwill that you gained if you lose to the Titans? And I'm saying, like, kind of depends on who's at quarterback and how the game goes, to be honest. Because if it was Jacoby, I was like, I really don't know how they're going to score points. It's not a knock on Jacoby. This is just, as we saw, it's a really, really good defense. And Kendrick Bourne, I don't know if we have the actual clip, but he even said himself, similar to Alex Van Pelt, that like Drake is doing things you don't really see rookies do very often. And the way they had his back, like they know they've got a real dog. And then even like the strip sack, he was literally trying to do the same thing that he had done earlier on that flip while he was getting sacked. Yep. And you see, he did that in college. And it's one of those things where sometimes, you try to make a play and it works, but then you get the opposite sometimes and you try to flick the ball out and you don't realize that there's somebody right behind you and the ball gets knocked out. So, and then in these situations, I felt much better about him going down the field and scoring in those clutch moments than I have felt in years from a Patriots quarterback. Not since Tom Brady have I said, you know what? I think they're going to score. I feel very confident about this. With Brissett, with Mac, with Bailey Zappi, it was always like, oh my God, all right, this is going to suck. Just embrace it, woosah. Just got to calm down and embrace the darkness, to quote one lunatic. But I mean, Drake Maye, I think that's the one thing that you really kind of hold on to and you're like, okay, we'll be all right. This season may be tough. I'm sure this is not going to be the last tough loss the Patriots have, but at least you know that your quarterback is a guy that not only gives you confidence, but gives the team confidence. Because how often did we hear with Tom Brady once he went to Tampa Bay, everyone's like, with Tom Brady, it just changes your mentality because you actually don't even feel, you know that you are going to go into every game with a chance to win no matter what the circumstances, nothing. And that does affect the entire team because it makes you play harder. You actually have faith. Like, I know people say momentum isn't a thing in sports. It absolutely is. These are human beings who want to have some level of confidence. And you could hear throughout that locker room, like, it was pin drop quiet in there. Like, obviously nobody was happy. It was kind of downtrodden. But as soon as anybody brought up Drake Maye, people were lighting up and clearly know they've got their guy.
Let's play some of it. Here's a couple people, I think Bourne for sure, and maybe Mayo here talking about Maye.
Out there trying to make a play. He's trying to make a play. And I think sometimes, as well as he has played, sometimes we forget how young he is. And he's going to continue to develop, and he'll be a good quarterback in this league. And, look, we'll all learn from this, myself included.
Yeah, we got to just build. We have to build. He gives us a lot of potential to grow in. I think that's what's the greatest thing about Drake. He's doing things that you don't really see at a young age. So I'm very excited, and I want to be better for him. I think everybody understands in our offensive room that we have something in him that can make everybody better. He like I talked about, he has the aura to him. You just know that he's going to go out there and do his thing. He's going to play. He's not scared, and that's somebody you want to follow.
That's Drake. I mean, we nobody was surprised. Honestly, Drake does stuff like that all the time. I mean, he fought and did all he could. So I mean, proud of him, happy for him. I know he's hurting. We're all hurting. But it's nice to see it and know he's hurting. But he's so hungry to get back to Foxboro, get to work and get better for himself.
I would love to go back and listen to what players said after they beat the Bills last year. If was anybody talking about Mac Jones like this at all, I don't remember a single
Well, that was the game where they didn't let him throw.
Or really saying anything close to this. They probably were nice things here and there, but no one we weren't surprised. Drake's that dude. It's just I half forgot they lost just because hearing everybody talk about it, you would think the game kind of went a little differently, but. again, just finally nice to have a quarterback that does inspire that level of confidence throughout the entire team, where the defense knows, the special teams knows, the offense knows this dude can score on any play.
Yeah. Yeah, they know. I mean, they know. Like I said, I mean, I'm a little surprised there's some people here. I don't know if it's just simply that and not everyone has to think the same thing. I don't know how you watch this and don't feel like, as again, what are you looking for out of this season as a Patriots fan? Overall growth and progress is nice, but the number one thing is clearly, did we get the right guy? And like, I think you can feel, I think it's insane that you can almost know that you did like this early. I think most people thought it would be like, we'll see, it might take a while. Like, you could have been looking at a year to a year and a half of like, I don't know if he cleans this stuff up, maybe, but I don't know what, I mean, like I said, I think he's so far ahead of where you thought, and he's capable of doing so many things beyond. The most impressive thing for me is the things he does, Tayler, beyond the physical. That is impressive. That's on a very high level. And again, a lot of it is the processing and just, how he's seeing things. He sees things very, very clearly for a rookie whose biggest issue was supposed to be, that and lack of experience. I mean, it doesn't look like that here. And again, we know that like progress isn't necessarily linear. He could take a couple steps back and to have some real clunkers where things come up that haven't come up yet. And you're like, oh, I didn't like that. And I didn't like this, but like everything after, again, the 3.5 games, I guess so far, is the arrow pointing, heavy up as far as he goes. So I am surprised when I see in here, like people are like, we'll still see. Like maybe I'm a quick judgment guy. I'm like, oh God, this is it. They got him. He's the guy. Like, I don't know how you watch a season of Caleb Williams and watch 3 games of Drake Maye and can tell me that you think Caleb Williams is ahead of Maye right now. He's not. Like, he's not, like this has franchise quarterback written on it. So again, people should be rejoicing over that. Everything else, you can absolutely start to be a little bit, a little bit anxious about it, because again, you can't fix everything all at once. And to the Patriots' credit, they're trying, but like, this is where we were a little bit with, in the Mac Jones, last year or so of like, well, the line is bad and the receivers are bad. And there's a lot of excuses for why, but the bottom line is Mac was also not doing well himself. The problems persist though. And like, you don't want to make them as the reason why, someone is playing poorly, but it's certainly the reason why they're losing is they just simply don't have enough playmakers all over the field. The line, again, you threw in Layden Robinson in to start immediately, really rough start to start there. Onwenu being kicked back to tackle. Again, a lot of people question whether or not that was the right thing, especially considering to right tackle, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so I actually asked Rod about that decision because I thought that was a really funky move to like break the continuity and put Layden Robinson in, especially when the strength of Tennessee's defense is Jeffrey Simmons in the interior.
That's what I mean. It didn't make sense here against this team for what Tennessee brings at you.
Yeah, and he did acknowledge that the pocket was kind of soft and that they wanted to get a better matchup on Jeffrey Simmons. And I'm like, you didn't think about that before the game? Like, this is the first game where I really have some like very glaring issues with the coaching, where sometimes I'm just like I said on the show before, sometimes I really just don't know what their thought process was. And I want to, be respectful of the fact that they put way more work into these things than I do. But like, that was one of the things where I'm just like, even in the pregame, I'm like, I saw that Layden Robinson was at guard in practice on Friday. And I'm like, I'm going to wait to the game because I don't know if this is them messing with us or what it is. And I thought it was kind of funky, but I mean, to kind of put a bow on the Drake Maye thing, I think Kendrick Bourne also mentioned, like what you said, how he makes everyone around him better. Like everything that Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo were saying about Drake when he was drafted, you've heard from other people in the locker room. Like players are saying it not unprompted, obviously they're being asked about it. But they're saying all those things. And when it comes to like where Drake Maye was, the reason I was so giddy about him, like I know he's mentioned that he's always been pretty good at feeling the rush. Obviously, we know that. We've seen that. When he got drafted, the thing I was so excited about even before he was drafted was the fact that, yeah, he was 21 years old, and you can tell the way that he like attacks defenses. It's not a mechanical thing where it's like, oh, okay, now the safety dropped and it's cover two. It's not like that. It's more like what Brady did, where you can tell he's attacking space. He understands where leverage is, where structurally the defense is weak. And that's the stuff that you saw in college. Like every once in a while, like I think it was against Minnesota or somebody. He had one of those interceptions like he had today where just completely missed the underneath defender. But it's not like most quarterbacks where that kind of thing happens and you're just like, oh, God, here it goes again. When he makes those kinds of mistakes, it really is surprising because you know that he usually is a very good decision maker. And really the only times he really turns it over consistently are because of his accuracy issues, which obviously are still a work in progress. But yeah, it's, oh my God, I'm not comparing him to Tom Brady. Let's be honest. I'm saying the way they process defense.
You kind of are.
You can tell. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady, but the way they process defense is very similar. Obviously, Tom Brady was in the NFL for 20 years, much smarter, much further ahead. I'm not saying Drake Maye is Tom Brady. Like, please, let's breathe here.
That's what I heard, but that's
it is at least like the processing and how smart Drake Maye is already at this stage is why it's so exciting, because you can tell he is very far ahead of the curve when it comes to the mental side of the game.
No doubt about it. And so, and again, that's the thing. It's kind of back to it is like, you know, everything you're seeing from it. Again, it's hard to like not point out what's going on. But again, we mentioned the offensive line issues. It was an issue before. I hate saying this would make it be like, well, you know, like Drake Maye, so now you're making excuses for him. It just is what's going to cap the ceiling and the ability to take it further. I think he's doing everything he can within the current construct. But like, while I was waiting for you to kind of finish up in the locker room, I turned on NBC's postgame and Ted Johnson, like just with a straight face, and he wasn't trolling or anything out there, but he was kind of assessing Maye's performance from his perspective. He's like, I'm really encouraged. He's like, look, does the guy have, you know, a terrible offensive line around him? Yes, absolutely. Is this the worst receiver group in the league? Yeah, probably. He's like, is Alex Van Pelt an offensive guru? Definitely not. So it's like, it just kind of runs through all of it. It's like, and so he's out there doing it. And that's the thing is like, this is literally a man on an island at this point where why are the Patriots behind him saying all of these things? Like, oh, he's this, he's this, he's this, he's that. I think they realize like, and Mayo said it after week 1 and everyone was like, that's a strange thing to say when he's like, we got to be better for him. He's already it. Like he is the system at this point. Like, and again, I'm not taking the victory lap over like I thought he should have been playing all along. I think they should have installed everything around him all along. That's kind of the thing is like build everything you have to suit Drake Maye's skill set from the moment he walked through the door. This whole like he'll get in later in the season around our system that's going to be built around zone running and this is what we do. I just found to be strange. Like you got this guy, go figure out what you're going to do around this guy. But what's happening around him right now and around the team all year and around the team last year is sadly an institutional failure. So it's impossible not to look at some of these things and not at least call them out for what they are. And there was a couple of positives today, getting Douglas a little bit more involved. Bourne probably had his best game, even though he was guilty of a couple of things as well. And we don't like to talk about Jalen Polk, but we're going to have to again.